All right, let's go ahead and get started with this week's lab. We're going to be talking about the digestive system. As per usual, we have a worksheet that you can use to help label a little bit if you want to follow along with that throughout this presentation. Otherwise, we will be using pages 58 through 63 of your lab manual. Again, that's pages 58 through 63 of your lab manual for this week's lab. So let's jump in. So, objective 1 is to identify different aspects of the digestive system. So, we have 5 different things that we need to be able to visualize here. So, the first thing is just going to be where are the most of the digestive organs, at least, in the body. We're going to call this cavity the peritoneal cavity. All right, so this is going to be the cavity that's holding the peritoneal, or the organs in the peritoneal or abdominopelvic region. All right, so most of the digestive organs are going to be found right here. All right, everything besides the esophagus and the mouth and the oral region. All right, so all the main ones like the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and pancreas, liver, gallbladder, those are all going to be found in this cavity here. Lining the outside of the wall here that you can kind of see sketched in yellow of this model is the parietal peritoneum. All right, so this is the peritoneum that is lining the cavity wall. The peritoneum that's lining the actual organs themselves that we can't really visualize with this representation is called the visceral peritoneum. So just like we had our visceral pleura and our parietal pleura when it came to the lungs, and our visceral pericardium and our parietal pericardium when it came to the heart, we have our parietal peritoneum on the outside lining the cavity, and then we have this visceral peritoneum on the inside lining. So it's going to be lining the outside of the organs. And then in between these two, we have the omentum. All right, so the omentum is going to be draping over the stomach, or like, I guess like under the stomach and over the small intestines. All right, so this prevents adherence between the visceral and parietal peritoneums. So this is that greater omentum. As you can see here, there's also a lesser omentum, but we're not concerned with it. We're going to be concerned with identifying this greater omentum. All right, so it'll be draped over top of the small intestine. And then the vasculature supplying this omentum and all the intestines and whatnot is called the mesentery. All right, so we have, when we did our blood vessels lab, we had the superior mesenteric artery branching off of the aorta, or right, the abdominal aorta. And so you can visualize that here. Kind of coming into this abdominopelvic region to help supply the mesentery. All right, so that's why I like this picture. You can kind of see that, and you can kind of see where the omentum, it's pulled back here, but that would just drape forward toward you over the top of these intestines. All right, so underneath that lining is all this supply. So that does it for objective 1. Then we can jump into the alimentary canal. This is probably the most complex aspect of this week's lab. Take it slow. Everything is just in layers. So the very inside of your alimentary canal is called the lumen. All right, this is the actual tube that is continuous between your mouth and your anus all the way, with different valves separating various organs. So this lumen is where the food travels through. So that's this actual space or region in the middle. It's a hole. All right. The immediate tube lining is called the mucosa. All right, so there's a couple of different layers of the mucosa. We're just concerned with identifying it as mucosa. It's distinguished by this epithelia, all right, this columnar epithelia. And then right outside the mucosa, we have the submucosa. All right, so we're gonna have some vasculature supplying the submucosa as well as some nerves, helping with parasympathetic innervation. And then outside this submucosa layer, we have the mucosa or muscularis layer. So this muscularis layer is going to be smooth muscle. All right, don't memorize circular or longitudinal muscle, just understand that it's smooth muscle. All right, these are our organs that we're talking about, so it's not cardiac muscle or skeletal muscle, it's smooth. And then the very outside is going to be basically a protective region called the serosa, also known as the adventitia. So you can put either of those on the quiz and you get it right. It's also called the visceral peritoneum, so we just covered that, right? So this is that outside covering of the organs, this visceral peritoneum, serosa or adventitia. So we need to be able to identify this in a histological slide. So this is the exact picture you could get in your lab quiz. All right, so we have a cross section of an intestine here. So what we would be seeing here is the lumen on the inside where food would be traveling. This immediate layer to the inside of that lumen would be layer C, and that's all that columnar epithelia. So I could ask you what type of epithelia or what type of tissue is this, you would say columnar epithelia. Or if I said what layer is this, you would tell me the mucosa layer. The layer immediately outside the mucosa layer is layer B, that's the submucosa. It's usually a lot more connective tissue base. And then you can tell where all the red, smooth muscle layer is going to be. That'll be the largest layer in the muscularis layer, right, helping propel that food throughout the digestive tract. And then we have our visceral peritoneum, adventitia / serosa in letter D here. Okay, so remember that space or region on the inside is the lumen.